Hello everyone. So we are back with another video on AWS, and in this video I will be talking about how to spin up an EC2 server using the launch template created. There are two ways to spin up a EC2 server. One of them is directly configuring the EC2 while launching an instance. Another way is we can create a launch template which can be used again and again for multiple EC2 servers, and we won't have to do any configuration. The configuration will be read from the launch template itself. So let's get into it. So we are in AWS console right now. We won't be doing any coding. We just be using the console and doing everything from here only. So first thing we need to do is search EC2 in the search bar. You make sure that the region you select in the console should have at least 2 or 3 availability zones, not a single availability zone. Like you can see in Mumbai zone, there is only single availability zone. No other AP South zone is there. But for AP Southeast, there are 2 zones, and Northeast, there are 3 zones. So I have chosen the Northeast. You can choose the zone which have 2 zones at least. You can even choose US East 1 or US West 2. Right, so let's go to our instances. Right now we don't have any instances. What we'll be doing is we'll be launching the instance from the template, but for that we should have launch template already ready with us. So we are creating a launch template right now. I already have one launch template created some time back, but I will be creating a new one this time. Let's name it as EC2 metadata launch template. The application which I'll be running in EC2 instance will be reading the metadata from this EC2 instance and will be showing that in the response of the REST API. So we'll be using a particular endpoint for getting the response, and we can give the version as launch template for EC2 instance to identify it properly. Now we need to configure the AMI for this, means the OS which will be running on the instance. I am using Amazon Linux only for simplicity. You can choose any other OS as well. This architecture is fine. Then the instance type, I'll be choosing the free tier only for now for the demo purpose. And now I have to create a new pair. So let's create a new key pair. This is not actually required, but in case you want to log in into the instance using SSH, you have to have a SSH key with you. So for that, I'm creating an EC2 instance key. Let's name it as Linux server demo key. Okay, so click on create key. Now we'll be saving this in our downloads for now. We won't be using it, but just in case we need it for logging in SSH, we have created it. Now the network settings, we won't do anything for the subnets. Now for firewall, since actually our application will be running on port 8100, so for accessing that port, I have to create a new security group. I already have a security group with me for now, but you should also know how to create a new security group. So let's create one EC2 instance demo security group. This is the name. Description is allow all to access 8100. Okay. Using default VPC only. Now creating a security group rule here. This is where we define the port. So 8100 will write, and this is a custom TCP port. The source will be anywhere, and we can write the description or we can leave it as optional. For now, we can leave it as blank. No network configuration required for our case. The 8 GB space is sufficient. No resource tag is required, but we need to configure few things in advanced details section. Now here, I have to allow the metadata access for instance. For that, I have to keep this as enabled. And the metadata version, I have to use v1 and v2 because in case of v1 no token is required, but in case of v2 token is required, access token. So v1 will be we will be using v1 because no token is required. We can directly access metadata from that. The metadata will be instance ID and the AZ for us, means availability zone for us for this instance. Now the hop limit we can set is some big value between 0 to 64. For now, I will set it as 10. That is just to make sure that we get the instance in uh, less time. Now we can enable the tags in metadata just to be sure that we are getting the metadata. Then for this user data part, we will be writing some initialization scripts here. So let me copy that initialization scripts from my system only. So this already present in my notepad. I'll be copying and pasting it here and I'm explaining and will be explaining you one by one what each line is doing. So first of all, I'm installing Java 17 in my EC2 instance using this line. I will directly be getting the bash terminal access, so I won't have to write any line for that. Then I have to install Git. Why I need to install Git? To get the source code of my application. This is a convenient way to get the source code because in case I made any new changes to my source code and I can directly push that change in my GitHub repository and can pull that, basically clone that repository here, and I will get the latest code. So this is a convenient way to get the latest code. One thing is to be sure that you should already have this repo existing in your GitHub account with application which you want to run in this instance. And after this line of code, getting git cloning, you will get this repo created in your local EC2 instance. You have to get into that folder. Then you have to install Maven. Why it is required? Because you have to create a jar file to be run by our Java. That's why it is required. Now we are already in this folder. Now we need to do this change. Why this part is required? Just in case you are accessing let's say lambda function from your application. In that case, you need to be authenticated for that AWS resource, means that particular lambda function. And for that, you should have these credentials already existing in your EC2 instance. So this piece of code does that part. First, it is creating that AWS folder. Then it is copying this whole part is to be copied inside this credentials file. So that is what is being done by this all these lines. So this is required only if you are accessing some resources like lambda functions or any other EC2 resources or any other AWS resources. For example, S3 instance or something else from your application. So after that is done, you're already in this folder. So you just have to run that maven command, maven clean package -d skip tests. What this does is this clean package will create your jar file, and -d skip test will basically skip the running test run of your application. So this will save some time for creating the jar. And this line will find that created jar location using this internal command, and will get the location in this variable. And what this line does is basically this Java jar will run that jar, but this ampersand will run that jar in the background. And this no hop is required so that that process is running in background and is outputting and is basically outputting the result of that jar run into nohub.out file that will be created in the current directory only. So in case you want to see the application is running has run properly or not, or in which port it is running, this this line will make sure that you can access the overall console which application running has generated. So this is all the script which we need to do for running our application initialization script. Now we have to create this launch template. This is a very convenient way to launch an EC2 instance. We don't need to do any manual configuration in AWS console. Just you need to click launch instance from template. Now the instance launch template is available. We can get into instance. All right, now we can simply go into this instance tab and launch instance from template. Now we need to choose our instance template which we created recently. So it was this one, EC2 metadata LT. Choose that one. After you choose that, all the configuration will automatically be loaded here. You won't have to choose anything. So once it is loaded, you can even check what all things are loaded. So here you can see the in template we have specified all these things, and all of the things are loaded here. We have not written any of this. We have not even chosen any of this. All the things are coming from template. Now we can simply choose launch instance. Now this launching instance might take few minutes. You can see that right now the instance state is initializing, so we have to wait for a few minutes for it to be running successfully. So let's wait. Alright, so now we can see that the status check is complete. 2 out of 2 checks are completed, and even our instance is running right now. So all we have to do is right now to copy this public IPv4 DNS. We can also copy the IPv4 address, but I prefer using DNS because it is more readable. So let's copy and paste it here. Now my application was running on port 8100, and I have to use this endpoint to get my instance details. This code is already present in my that GitHub repository, means my application. So as soon as I hit this endpoint, I should be able to get my instance metadata. Let's see. I'll be getting the instance ID and availability zone. Now to verify that it is correct or not, we can come back here and check ODF 9b6 is the instance. ODF 9b6, the instance ID is correct, and the availability zone is northeast 1C. See northeast 1C. So application is running properly and it is giving the correct response. Also, if you want to see the logs of the application, what we can do is we can do that as well by using SSH. Let me show you that. All right. So right now I have opened my Git Bash terminal, and I've also copy pasted my SSH key in this current directory only, this AWS EC2 instance playground. You should also do that, so you can access your EC2 instance from the console, from the command line itself. So what is the command for that? SSH-I, and you have to enter the key name here, which is SSH, not SSH, it is Linux server demo key. Yeah, this one. We have to use this key, and we have to enter our domain in the DNS of our EC2 instance. So user is EC2 user, and we have to copy paste the DNS from our instance itself. This was the DNS. Let's copy paste it, and let's paste it here. I've copy pasted it from the console itself, AWS console. And now we have to hit enter, and we have to allow this IP to be accessible. So it will take some time. Okay, so the issue is that the port 22 is not allowed in our security group. That is why it was not able to connect. So to resolve this issue, what we need to do is we have to edit the security group, and we have to add another inbound rule here in our security group. 1 second, I will share that. So I think now it is visible. Okay, we are in the inbound rule section. Let me get back and let me do that. In the security group, you can find this security group ID here. and clicking that, you will get in the inbound rule section. You have to edit the inbound rules and you have to add a new rule here. That rule will be on SSH. You have to allow it from anywhere. This rule is required to access your EC2 instance from SSH terminal. Otherwise, you won't be able to do that. So after I have added this rule, I can simply use this command to log in. 1 second. So now I have created another EC2 instance using that launch template. In that, I have to check the initialization script has created the correct files in the correct place or not. The thing is that initialization script will create those files and run those commands as a root user. And right now we only can log in as an EC2 user from the command line. So from the command line, we have to switch our user to a root user to see all those files and all those changes. So to do that, we can type the command sudo -i. Now we are in the root user directory, and we are logged in as switch the user as root user. Now to see our files in this absolute home directory of root user, we will type ls-al. Now you can see in the root directory I have .aws folder already created by the commands. Now to check our git repo was properly pulled or not, we can type cd and our EC2 repo name, means our git repo name. Now we insert that git repo which was pulled. We can type ls-al again to see the files inside the repo. Now you can see all the files are from the Spring Boot application, pom.xml, even the src, target, maven files, git files. Okay. Now to check our EC2 logs, means what all log was created by our initialization script, means our CloudWatch logs, we can use this command which will show all the log created by our initialization script and even while starting up the EC2 instance. So this will be a very long log file, means hundreds of lines of code will be there. So to see the last few lines of the log, we can use this tail command, which will output the last 30 lines of our log file. So this is the command tail -30 and our log file location. This will log last 30 lines. Let's see. So yes, you can see the last 30 lines had our jar file creation first, which was a success, and then our application was run from our Java command. And you can see the port number from here. It is very convenient using this step that you can even check in which port your application is running if in case you are not sure. And even you can see what all endpoints are exposed. You can see the actuator endpoint and the base endpoint, root endpoint is exposed, and how much time it took for the application to start. All the things like last few lines will contain only those logs. So this is how you can check the logs of your application as well. This is a very easy way. You don't have to look for no hub output file. This command will be able to do that. Now we can simply exit the command line and we can proceed to our next step of cleaning up the EC2 resources. Now you have to make sure that as soon as your work is done for this instance, you have to delete that or terminate that so that you won't be charged much for running this instance. So as soon as you're done, simply delete the instance. You are not required, it is not mandatory to delete the launch templates because they won't cost you anything unless you are running any instance. So now instance is properly screened on. Might take some time. It will take basically 1 hour to properly get removed from your terminal. Console. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If you found this video helpful and you were able to achieve what the video was trying to demonstrate, do hit that like button. And if you were stuck in any of the steps, do comment down below so that I can help you in that regard. And if you're new in this channel, do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you won't miss any updates of the new videos coming in the future regarding the AWS series as well. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.